Why do we have almost 2.5 million people in prison in the United States? China doesn't have that many people in prison. What's going on here? It's a very corrupt system.
Well, economics. It's economics. Is when we're talking money here. Okay, we're talking money here. This bothers me. This recent suicide in Massachusetts, up where you are. Eight this year. 1 year. 8 this year. 7 last year. I mean, you're talking 15 suicides in the state prison in about a year and a half.
But the thing is, they don't address the issue. It is the condition of the confinement that causes people to commit suicide.
And then you want to isolate. You take somebody who should be on suicidal watch, and you don't want the family to visit. You want to put them in isolation. They should be. How the heck?
Well, here,
do you have a? Go ahead.
I'll read it right from here, so you can really get the gist. This is the Boston Globe newspaper, and one paragraph, and it says, "But advocates question whether the state has lived up to its promise. Inmates who spend their time on suicide watch in the past 2 years," Walker said, told her that officials placed them in barren cells, made them change from regular prison garb into gowns, revoked routine privileges such as family visits, and deprived them of belongings including books, mail, family photographs, and toiletries.
Doesn't make any sense.
I mean, an individual needs his family. He needs somebody to talk to him away from where he went, and you throw him into isolation. This is isolation.
You're exacerbating the situation.
Oh, absolutely, and it's just outrageous. But how does that happen?
That's what I'm.
It happens because the system is corrupt. They treat this individual on the concept of command and control, and the humanity and all is put to the side. They're not interested in rehabilitating individuals. They're only interested in controlling. In the last video that we did, we showed a prisoner that died.
Yeah.
Because of the mistreatment.
Under constant watch. Under constant watch. It's not. This is what is so disturbing. How does one die? Where do they get the time to hang themselves? However, they do that when you're under, or you're supposed to be under, continuous watch. It doesn't.
In Walpole Prison, in what they call the hospital area, was about maybe 10 cells. They took 4 of the cells, took out the walls between 2 of them, redid the window, and in the center of the cell they put a bed, bolted to the ground. It was a block of concrete. Right?
Okay.
With a real weird kind of looking bed that was concave, and they had a camera in there. They put a guy in there with this paper gown on, and you're not going to believe this. The string that you tied the gown with is 3 feet nylon cord.
Which you could tie to the fence and hang yourself with, right? Oh, please.
And they don't come around and observe you. There's no one sitting there watching you. And now and then they make a round. And they're depending upon the camera. There's a TV screen that's this big, and nobody's watching it.
That's, yeah, well, somebody's supposed to be watching it.
Yeah, but I mean, this is what the problem is. $50,000 to create these 2 cells.
Yeah, and another 50 to pay the correctional officer to sit there and watch the person, and they're not watching. I mean, you know, this is horrendous.
Massachusetts gets a budget a little over $1 billion.
$1 billion.
2% of it is for rehabilitative programs. 75 to 77% of it is for salaries.
Salaries.
And the rest is for maintaining the institution.
Salaries for people who allow 15 people to commit suicide in Massachusetts in a year and a half. a year and a half. That is, that is absolutely something seriously wrong.
But now keep in mind, it's not just Massachusetts. Massachusetts has the highest rate.
4 times.
4 times the
4
national
times the
average.
national average.
But the national average is too high.
Of course it is. Of course it is.
How are people killing themselves in the jail
It doesn't-
if you're watching them? Obviously, you're not watching.
Michigan, they let a guy starve to death. In Michigan, they let us starve to death. I hope our
So-
people are watching the show, and we're going to have our website on the bottom of this tape, nlhome.org. You can go there, and that'll be across the bottom of the screen if you have a thing, and you can go to our site and you can see what is done to people. Actually, films of the Department of Corrections, films from the BBC,
Well, see,
and
they
stuff like
talk
that.
the Department of Corrections into videotaping what's going on.
Exactly.
And they did that.
Yes.
They videotape stuff to cover themselves,
Right.
and then they allow horrendous things to take place on tape.
Yeah, I know it.
And it's just mind-boggling. You really have to go on the website.
And they try to justify their actions.
Oh, absolutely.
But it shows you, when you talk about corruption and desensitization, you can see this so clearly. When people watch somebody die, they actually watch. They watch people who need water. They watch people who need care, and they're
we
not
gotta
doing
get more
anything
detail.
about them.
This individual that we're talking about
it's
has
one.
been chained down
Yeah,
for like 14, 17, 18 hours at a whack.
at a time. Yeah.
The individual is mentally ill. It's documented. The individual is mentally ill.
21-year-old baby.
He stops drinking water, he stops eating food, and nobody caught the signal. And this kid, and when you go on the video, on the site, you'll see this individual fall on the floor and die. And they're watching it, they have a camera watching it. The only one that really saw it is the camera, nobody else is paying attention. But also on the website, there's a BBC piece that you really, really have to watch if you want to understand the concepts of corruption that's going on in the system. It focuses on Texas and Florida. In Texas, they show prisoners being forced to crawl on the floor, being hit with cattle prods, and this is supposed to be a shakedown for drugs.
Shakedown for drugs, yeah.
And they're hitting people with cattle prods, stepping on their backs, kicking them, swearing, calling names.
Using equipment that they bought, that had the new supply and demand your correctional officer some equipment, and it's amazing. I know what we're going to do is that we're going to take a little break, and for a few minutes, and we're going to be right back
And discussing this.
And discussing this issue
In detail.
I want you to stay with us, okay? But we're going to take a few minute break, give you a chance to get up and get your coffee, and
But we'll be back on the screen in a second.
in a second. Yeah, we'll be back on the screen in a second. Okay. Well, you just found us coming back again. That was about the quickest second you could see. I really want to talk about going to my website, nlhome.org, which you're going to see across the bottom of the screen here. And the reason I want to go there is because we want to talk about what we're talking about, coddling prisoners. Now, is what I really want you to see is what the BBC did on the Texas prison and the Florida prison. And I want you to understand the corruption that goes on, the merchandising and sale of material that goes to the Department of Correction, okay, that it isn't about corrections, that none of this is about that, that it's about